Hey, what's going on, gang? In this video, I'm gonna go over every single thing that you need to know to successfully complete a novation in the virtual real estate world. My name is Noah Clark. I've been flipping houses virtually full-time for almost 2 years now, with this becoming one of my new favorite strategies to use. So let's dive in. And just so you know how important it is you watch this entire video, I'm gonna go over what a novation is, when to use it, how to use it, when not to use it, what it's done for me, how to calculate your offer, how to underwrite novations, how to pitch the novations to sellers, the paperwork you need, and any other questions that my private community had asked me to answer. And for starters, here's the definition of a novation. A novation is a legal agreement where one party in a contract is released from that contract and is replaced by a new party with the consent of all original parties. And in virtual wholesaling, this means you and the seller agree to cancel or modify your original purchase contract and replace it with the final retail buyer. You and I are substituted out, and the new buyer is substituted in, and the seller gets the price you guaranteed them initially. So why is this legal for someone without a license? Because you're not selling a property, you're selling your position in the contract. And on top of this, all parties agreed in writing. It's a recognized legal principle in contract law. And you're not acting as a broker. In short, it's a substitution. The seller releases me from the original purchase agreement and replaces me with the final retail buyer. Now, in some cases, investors will agree to put some money into the property, making upgrades and boosting the sale value even more, but this isn't necessary to complete this style of a transaction. So now that I've explained all the legal jargon behind a novation so you understand what it is, let's get into why this should even matter to you and why it may be beneficial to your investment business. So I'll go ahead and tell a story that I've recently shared with our mastermind because it sums this up perfectly. We got a property under contract at $150,000. The margins were pretty slim for this to be a cash deal, and we had actually locked it up, and within a few days got multiple flippers and investors inside the property to walk through it. We received the highest offer from a cash buyer at $160,000. Now, some may say, hey, 10 grand in 5 days isn't too bad. But I knew there was so much more to be made within this deal. So I made the decision. Since we had the documents signed anyway, we would go ahead and throw the property on the MLS and sell it much higher as the condition was livable and the property could be moved into. After a quick market analysis, I noticed our closest competitor was listed at $250,000. This told me I needed to list it under that price so the deal would jump off the page to anyone that saw the listing. So we went ahead and we listed the property at $219,000, and within 7 hours we had received a full priced offer at $219,000. After taking into account the expenses we'd have to pay on the deal, we came up with a total and net profit of around $58,000. Not too shabby, huh? All we needed was an extra sheet of paper signed. So that being said, you now see just how awesome this maneuver can be, and not only what it can do for your business, but your life in general. So now that you have some real world experience from me, let's dive into the weeds. Now, before we get into times that it does make sense for a novation, let me explain situations where it doesn't. If a seller wants or needs a fast close, novations, they typically take around 60 days to close, and if a seller's in a rush or a bind, and they want to close as fast as possible, a novation is not going to be the best route to go. On top of that, if a property is falling down, I'm not saying it's a bad idea to list an ugly property, but the purpose of a novation is to sell the deal to a retail buyer, someone that will move into the property rather than a cash buyer or an investor that's going to be fixing and flipping it or renting out the property. If this is the case, just do a cash deal and sell it quick. When retail buyers walk properties that need any hefty repairs, they're already counted out because the majority of their financing options will disqualify the property due to a failed inspection. And on top of this, if a seller is unstable or paranoid, it's not a good idea. Now, I've listed properties for sellers before that have been very antsy from day one, and they're always the ones that make it a headache to complete the transaction down the road. Now, it's up to your judgment, but if a seller is making life difficult for you from day one, don't expect that to change. When doing a novation, you need, and I can't stress this enough, you need the seller's full cooperation if they are occupying the property, because you're gonna need to do showings, walkthroughs, inspections, all that jazz. It's not just one quick walkthrough and done. This is a process that they need to be on board with. Another time you shouldn't do a novation is when your max allowable offer leaves you no spread. When my business does novations, we leave room for at least $50,000 in profit, because with novations, you're going to be paying realtor commissions on the listing side, the buying side, potential repair concessions to your buyer, and even closing costs all out of your fee. These are things you need to budget for. And if a deal is tight enough to where the best case scenario only yields us between $15,000 to $20,000, we are very cautious about taking that deal on. I don't want you to overpromise anything in this business and set false expectations for these sellers. That ruins the experience for everybody. I want you to underpromise and overdeliver. Understand? Cool. All in all, if you can't sell the deal quick and clean to a retail buyer, don't do a novation. So now that we're through that, let's talk about scenarios where a novation is going to be very beneficial for you. Write these down if you haven't. When the property is in good or great condition, too good to be a flip even, and the seller is still asking below market value. This is the perfect formula for a novation, but it doesn't need to be perfect by any means. That $58,000 deal I was talking about had no doors on the kitchen cabinets, which is weird because it didn't matter at all. There was no major renovations that were needed. As novations are also great deals when you have a tight spread on your cash value, but you can list it competitively enough to where it would fly off the market as a retail sale. I don't care what you've heard or what your limiting beliefs tell you about the real estate market getting too competitive or going slow, because no matter what, if your deal is priced correctly, it will sell. So after saying all this, I will let you know one of the most important factors, which is the seller's timeline. If a seller is not in a rush and they're okay waiting potentially 90 days to get their money, this opens the door for you to run the novation play without any stress, and it makes it so much easier. You need this extra time to get buyers, get offers, put out the fires, handle the headaches that come along with a retail sale. Now, once you go under contract with a buyer, they're gonna have a 30-day inspection. It's typical. Prepare for that. Okay, great. You know when not to do a novation, and you can now keep your eyes peeled for the perfect scenario for a novation. And now that we understand that, let's talk about how to underwrite a novation and decide the best price to get it under contract for, along with determining the best price to list it for. So as most of you guys know, with cash deals, you'll typically find the after repair value, you'll take 75% of that number, you'll subtract the rehab, then you'll subtract your assignment fee, which gives you your offer amount. With a novation, it looks a little bit different. Now, look at the comps and the properties that have sold recently nearby to get a gauge on where it can sell at and how fast, but don't die by what has sold. Live for what's for sale. Here's what I mean by that. Go on Zillow, pull up the address, and click out to the map. Locate where your address is and look at everything within at least a mile radius of your property. When you're running comps on cash deals, you're real tight. Novations, real wide. The reason you're doing this is to see your competition. Have you ever heard, keep your friends close and your enemies closer? Well, this is exactly that. Your enemies are all the other properties for sale in that area. If you have homes in good shape and listed at $300,000, don't even consider locking up your deal close to that, because it will not sell if you list it above what the market can bear. You want your deal to fly off the shelf. You want buyers breathing down your neck to accept their offer, not the other way around. So look at the market. If it's a single family home, look at only other single family homes. In the example I spoke to you about earlier, every property around was listed for $250,000 to $300,000. So what we did was we went in, we listed our deal at $219,000, which is over $30,000 less than the rest of our competition. In us doing this, it allowed our deal to be the most recognizable, one that jumped off the page, and one that people were willing to fight over. The buyers knew it was priced to sell, and they didn't take it for granted. This is how it needs to be for you as well, so don't take this lightly. Now guys, here's the exact formula we use to budget for commissions, closing costs, etc. We look on the market and see what's for sale to determine a rough as-is value estimate. In this case, we said, hey, if we list this at $220,000, it should fly. This made $220,000 our as-is value, so we took $220,000 and we multiplied it by 0.94 to account for 3% buyer's agent commission, along with 3% for a listing agent commission. And we came up with $206,000. From here, we took off another $10,000 to budget for potential closing costs and repair credits. This brought our net number to $196,000. Do the math. 196,000 minus the deal being locked up at 150,000 means we make 46,000 in this scenario. Now, it's up to you how much profit you're looking to make whenever you make your offer, but more is always better and more is always safer. So make sure when you offer, you still have a substantial budget for yourself. To recap, the offer formula is 94% of the as-is value minus 10,000 minus your fee. So if it was supposed to be 46,000, how am I making 58,000? Rather than paying a buyer's agent 3%, we're paying 2.5%. Rather than paying a listing agent 3%, we're paying our broker a flat fee of $3,500. And rather than paying $10,000 in closing costs and commission, we're paying $1,500. So if you can budget correctly for each of these and then negotiate an even better deal, you'll put yourself in a position to make more money than you anticipated. So take that into consideration and never take the short route when running your formula. Always, always, always budget for more than you want to. Does that make sense? Good. If not, rewind it and actually take notes this time. Just to go over it one more time so you have it written down. Find the as-is value. Multiply that by 0.94. Subtract $10,000 from that number and then subtract at least 50 for your fee. All right, now that you know when to do novations, how to price them, how to run your offer calculations, next, let's get into the paperwork you're gonna need. And I'm gonna keep this simple because you should not overcomplicate this. You need the same basic purchase agreement you always get signed. That's number one. Next, you'll need the AIF or attorney in fact signed. This is where the seller gives you specifically the right to list the property on the MLS and sign documents on their behalf. On top of this, you'll need the novation and indemnification document signed. This one clearly states exactly what you're doing by novating the original agreement, and having it on paper gives your seller clear disclosure and understanding on what's going to be happening. This way, nobody's left in the dark and everything is communicated in writing. To get access to these documents, join my free community, the Remote Closer Academy. Go to the classroom, go to the Certified Contracts module, and you'll be able to download my templates for each of these right after you watch this video. Links in the description. I suggest copying them to your own document, which you can then edit for each transaction that you do. Very simple. So you know the formula, the right timing, how to price it. You got the documents you need. Now you need to know, how do you pitch this to a seller in order to successfully close the deal? First thing I will say, you cannot and will not treat this conversation any differently than you would if you were offering a cash price. So if you haven't yet, or even if you have but don't have it memorized or in front of you at all times, go into my free community, go to the classroom, go to the Elite Closer training module, and in there, you're gonna find the full breakdown of my personal Clark framework. This is the exact blueprint you need to follow if you wanna double your close rate and close bigger deals. Now, after you make your third cash offer, in order to pivot from cash to a novation, you need to ask this one simple question without fail, every single time. Hey, Mr. Seller, let me ask you, would it be detrimental to you if we closed in 60 to 90 days rather than less than 30? And when and only when they say, no, this won't be an issue at all. This is God opening the novation door big and wide for you to walk right into. Here is where you say, okay, great. Well, that really helps. So, you know what I want to do, because if this is a cash deal from my pocket to yours, obviously we can get it to you quickly, but the price does have to reflect that. The number will have to be lower in exchange for the speed. But what's great about your situation is that we don't need to do it super fast. This allows me to raise my offer significantly. And rather than doing a quick and cheap deal so I can flip it, since your property is already in good condition and we've got some time, what I'd like to do is, I'd close on it to put a family in the property. Now, I'd need to secure that transaction with the family before we can close, but with how many properties we sell, we've developed a massive portfolio of buyers. Along with utilizing our softwares and resources, we'll be able to get it done in a pretty timely manner. So this way, that benefits me because I spend less money on updates and you make way more money. Everybody wins. I do this a few times a month when the scenario is perfect like this one. It normally takes around 30, maybe 45, maybe 60 days, and normally not even that long. But if I can come up to X price and we could close this out around X days, would that satisfy your needs? And after you explain all that and ask that question, they'll say yes, and you'll say, okay, that sounds good. The only thing I need from you is a short time of patience and reasonable access for walkthroughs. Is that gonna be an issue at all? Obviously, they're gonna say no. And it's go time, baby. Close them. Paint the picture for the future, explain the next steps, and get the documents signed. Let them know the terms stay exactly the same. You still cover everything. You're covering all closing costs, inspection costs. There's no realtor commissions taken out. It's straightforward and hands off for the seller, and it's the exact same as a cash deal. You just need slightly more time, and we're taking on a little bit more work. Does that sound good, Mr. Seller? Good. Boom! Simple as that. That's how you pitch a novation. You just let them know you're moving a family and you need more time. Guys, now that they've signed and you got the property under contract, what next? Should you use a flat fee broker or a real estate agent? In my personal opinion and experience, it's almost always more beneficial to have an agent or brokerage in charge of the listing and sale of the property. You don't do this to become a receptionist from here to closing. You did this to maximize your profit. So make the seller happy and give someone the American dream of owning a home for an affordable price. Don't pay brokerless, don't pay Baycom. Find a good realtor that is familiar with novations and is ready to go to work. So the next question, how do you find the right realtor? Guys, make posts in Facebook groups, all of them. Ask our community and make phone calls to realtors that have listings and have sold properties in the area. Ask them if they're familiar with novations. If they say yes, it's game on, brother. You found your man or woman. If they say no, they'll spend too much time explaining it. More often than not, they are not willing to, and they're just gonna give you attitude if they've never heard of it. But if they are familiar, and even better, have done them before, they'll be super easy to work with, and they'll make it fun for you. It doesn't matter where in the world your deal is, there is somebody that has done it before, or at least knows what it is, that is willing to do it. Now, if you're making excuses and you're saying, no, nobody's done one before, I can't find anybody, you're wrong, but here's how you can explain it to them. Hey, I have the power of attorney to list this property, and I'm looking to hire a realtor to do so. So you'll communicate directly with me on behalf of the seller, and we'll get this thing priced aggressively so we can sell it quick. Is that something you're open to doing? Anyways, enough of that. Now that you've got all that written down, write this down too. New clear leads. Not nuclear like a bomb, although that's how hot they are. Lead flow equals deal flow. Guys, Nuclear Leads is the best cold call company I've used in this industry. And if you want to close multiple deals and novations a month, use Nuclear Leads because they have the best prices for cold callers and they bring the best mix of quality and quantity with the leads. The link is in the description below. Go ahead, book a call with them and stop treating this like a side hustle, man. It's time to start running a real business. I've been split testing cold callers for a long time. That's another video. I'm just trying to help you out. Go get some leads. Once you have the leads, you need to make the calls. Use the Clark framework, close deals, get the proper paperwork signed, get the deals listed, and collect your cash. Guys, the paperwork is vital when you're doing a novation, and you need every document I mentioned before signed by the seller so that when the buyer brings their purchase agreement, they want to use their closing attorney to close. Everything is legal and clearly written. Now, onto the specific questions my community has asked me to discuss. Here are things not to do. Write this all down. Slow down the video if you need to. Speed it up if you need to. I don't care. Don't list the property higher than the competitors. Don't use a flat fee brokerage that's completely DIY. Do it yourself. There's one state I have one that's full service and they're hands-on with it all, but that's very rare. So also, don't offer too high, ever. Don't take on a deal with thin margins. Don't pass on good offers. Take them and move on. Don't hire a moody realtor. Don't hide anything from the seller. Don't do a deal you're not confident in. Make sure you write those down and you don't do those things. On the other hand, here are some objections you may face that you must handle if you want to be successful in this business with these people. If a seller says, well, why don't I just list it with a realtor then? Fight the urge that says, oh yeah, why the heck haven't you? And say, exactly. The same reason everyone chooses us. With a realtor, you have meetings, you take phone calls, you coordinate the transaction. You make updates to the property. You're gonna have to put some money into it. You move things around to look pretty. It takes a lot of time, and it's not even hands off. And you still pay closing costs. You still have to deal with long days on the market and price drops, and worst of all, they take their commission out whether you're happy with the price or not. With us, it's pretty much the exact opposite. We handle everything. It's hands off for you. You won't have a penny taken out from your number because it is X amount directly to you at close. No guessing and hoping. It's guaranteed. And on top of this, we cover all the closing costs for you. And more importantly than the money, we give you back your most valuable asset, which is time. So you can go on about your life knowing that you're in the hands of a professional that does this every single day. Does that make sense? Boom, handled, closed. And now they love you even more. Next, if a seller says, well, what if after 90 days you can't close? Hey, I understand that as well. Let me tell you something, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. I do this for a living. The only way we wouldn't be able to close is if the property is in much worse condition than what we've communicated about today. And even if that was the case, we hold your hand the entire way and we communicate with you throughout the entire process. So if we were to find something crazy out, number one, it'll happen very early on. Number two, we'll communicate with you to find a resolution from the jump. As much as you don't want to waste time, I'm probably even a little more impatient and I like to nip stuff in the bud day one. But with that being said, as long as that isn't going to be an issue, there's no reason we wouldn't get this done. We make offers for a reason. There's also no reason it would even take up to 90 days, to be honest with you. Does that sound good? Oh, it sounds great. Let's do it. Okay, fellas. So after I just talked your ear off with the most important information you'll learn today, make sure you're in the academy. If not, make sure you get the best cold callers in the world and make sure you're slinging deals left and right. Guys, get leads, make offers, get contracts, get paid. Use the Clark framework to become a killer on the phones and go be great. For now, that's all. Hopefully this was beneficial for you. Time to go and let's take this to the moon. Love y'all. Let's get it. Let me know if you have any more questions. I'm going to answer them and we're going to go make some money. Let's go.